Well, I'm excited to get this semester started with you guys. I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about the syllabus because this is actually a different course. If you follow my line of thinking that we're more connected to SLU than we are to anything else, then we're actually taking English 1900 as opposed to English 1500. This is the credit that you want. This is the class that would count as your typical freshman composition class. And believe me, you do want to skip that class after taking this one for a variety of reasons. One is that you will probably get a pockmarked, slightly older than you, English wannabe teacher who's just trying to get their master's degree teaching a class like this. At least that's the way it's happened for a long time. So you don't really get the veteran teaching that you usually get with a course like this. So I'm not going to go through too much of the course description, except to say that a couple of the big differences between last semester and this semester is last semester was about finding and creating and rethinking what all these, types of writing mean and exploring and kind of getting to the self and understanding that, sharing something about yourself often creates a really good piece of writing. And this semester, it's kind of back to academic writing and how to be a better academic writer. Well, guess what? Those things are connected. And one of the really important things about the first semester and why it's so important to lead into this semester is because now you have this tough job of putting these ideas together. How do I take myself and still represent myself and still represent my ideas and still be able to write something that's academically appropriate? And that's a really tough job. That's a hard thing to do. And you're going to find that, consistently you will have different teachers who have different expectations for papers. But if you can move between those worlds, then you're going to be more or less very successful. I still have to do it with my doctorate program, so it's not like I'm still not doing those things late into my education, or hopefully the middle of my education. Who knows? So the course objectives, they don't really change. It's about writing, it's about design, it's about composing, it's about analysis and incorporating and defending claims and learning and applying new information. And so this is the area that I'd say we're weak on. If we're weak on anything, it's incorporating, defending, and applying. And that's the area that we're going to get really strong in this semester. So that's okay. Basic breakdown of the course. We are about 10% of our overall grade will be like short writings, discussions, things of that nature. Poetry out loud falls into that category. Then we'll have Unit 1. The true Unit 1 will be Gatsby, and that's worth about 10% of your grade. DISO Logo is our Unit 2, and it's the big bad boys. So unfortunately, a lot of courses, for good reasons, save their big, nasty assignment until the very end to kind of see, did you learn all this stuff? We're going to put it about 3/4 of the way through both courses combined, and it's going to leave us some room to do interesting stuff later on instead of being pressured to get that huge final paper in at the end of the school year. So DISO Logo, that's the one that we absolutely have to hit. It's the real big one that SLU requires us to hit, and we're going to spend a good 6 weeks on it, if not a little more. It's worth 25% of your overall grade. Independent reading is going to be a part of this class, so yay, we finally get some time to independently read, and that will come into play throughout the course. It's going to be about 20% of your grade. The Unit 4, the problem-solving unit, is one that I've gotten to do one time in the last 4 years. That's kind of how time usually works for us. So I really want to do it. I'm going to set us up to do it. Our DISO Logo kind of feeds it in some interesting ways. And then if we just plain run out of time, which let's face it, we probably will, then we might substitute it with like a film unit or a play unit, or maybe both of those things instead of this one big thing. Because I can do both of those in about a week, and this one takes probably 4 or 5. We definitely will have some AP prep. I put that at a low percentage because I probably won't do any graded work with it, but I might. And then new to us is a participation grade, which I talked about in the revised expectations policy. Everything else is pretty similar. The grading, the 80% policy, all that good stuff from SLU. So I didn't want to finish before I kind of showed you. This is a big overview of the course. I think an overview is really, really important when you get to college, because when you get to college, you're essentially going to look at the syllabus, and the syllabus is going to tell you more about how to think about that course than any other document that you're going to get. And it's going to do that because you should be somebody who can think about 14 to 15 weeks. This is what 14 to 15 weeks means to me. This is what's going to happen in a semester, and that's how I'm going to conquer it. And, even though high school semesters are a lot longer than that, we go to, I think we're at 21 weeks this semester. But that can't be right. Maybe 18. But we want to keep some of that same kind of thinking. So typically I spend week 1 doing the Poetry Out Loud competition. Obviously, this year that slid into an online space, so we get to have a little bit of dipping our toes in the water week 1. And then week 2, we're going to start with literary analysis. I hope to do this thing that we've done in the past called the salons, and do a salon on psychology, Marxism, feminism, and maybe queer theory as well. And we can kind of get those in. Those are really useful. We're going to read this really interesting and creepy story called The Yellow Wallpaper, and we're going to think about that story in a couple different ways as we really get used to literary lenses. That's going to be the focus of next week. And then you're also going to pick up your copy of Gatsby next week, because we want to start Gatsby at least by the beginning of week 3. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know how I want to do Gatsby. I'm noticing that I basically have all of you guys on Thursdays and Fridays. So maybe I just want to teach Gatsby on Thursdays and Fridays. I don't know. I have to kind of let all the ideas that I have for that percolate a little bit and see, well, what do we want to do with that? But we will definitely read Gatsby, and we'll get into a Gatsby, sense of discussion and those types of things. And that'll lead us into Diso Logoi. Diso Logoi hits around, let's just say week 8. So now we're into the beginning of March, and you see that we kind of, or maybe the end of February, and you see we kind of just work on Diso Logoi for about 6 weeks. And that usually leads us right to spring break. And the hope is, hey, we're done with that. Now we can move on to the social justice thing. But that's, like I said, never happened. So this is all just time. This is time that we have to kind of figure stuff out. What do we need to do? How do we need to do it? Do we need to spend more time on Diso Logoi? That's fine. Do we need to spend more time on Gatsby? That's fine. What do we need to do down here to kind of even things out? That's fine too. So a lot of room to play. The big thing that's really important, one of the reasons I want to end Gatsby kind of early, is when we're finished with Gatsby, you're going to pick an individual book, and then down here at the end of the year, we're going to present a book project to myself and your history teacher. And it will be, a kind of English history presentation where you're looking at that book and how the history has kind of compounded that book in different ways. So, getting to that independent book is also important. What I want you to notice is I'm going to interject at the beginning of the end of this week topic ideas that can be held for Diso Logoi, and then we're going to kind of forget about them and focus on Gatsby. And then we're going to come back to that, and I'm going to say, oh, by the way, you have a reading assignment. Think about that. Now we're going to fill this in here. So we have, kind of long-term thinking, short-term thinking, long-term thinking, short-term thinking. That combination is really important in this class. And so, that's the way that we're going to tackle it, and we're going to see how that works.